Hello and welcome to another Happily Letter After tutorial. Today we are going to make an Easter project since it's almost Easter and I have a very pretty leafy design that we're going to do. So first let's grab our colors. So I made a new palette for this Easter one and I'm going to give you the names of the colors and you can enter them in. If you go to the value down here at the bottom, you can type in the hexadecimal right here. So this one, the hexadecimal for our first color is ACBC8A, and I'll have all these in the description for you. And the second color we're gonna do is going to be 7A964F. And the third color, C86E89, and our last color is going to be F3DE8D. Now you can use whatever colors you like. These are just the ones that I picked out for this project, but you can use whatever colors you want. So my canvas size is 3000 by 3000 pixels. It's perfect square for Instagram or wherever you're going to share it. And also, I apologize in advance in case you hear any noises in the background. Both of my cats decided to be in with me today instead of enjoying the beautiful weather outside, so they may be roaming around and playing. All right, so the first color on our palette, this light green, we're going to go ahead and we can go in our background color here, and we're going to set it to be our background color. And then we're going to grab our second green right here. And our brush that we're going to use, and we're going to use this for the entire project, and this is free. This is not one of my brushes that I've created, and it's not one that I bought. This one came with Procreate in the drawing section. It's the first brush called Little Pine, and the size that I have it set at is 37%. So if you're following along exactly the way I've got it, that's the size that I'm doing. Okay, so first things first, we're going to write out our word Easter, and we'll do the happy part later. So first let's do Easter, and I'm going to do it as a calligraphy word. And when I write and draw, I like to be at an angle, so I'm going to angle it. Also, I think I'm going to turn my drawing guide on because I want it to be somewhat proportionate. So if you go into Canvas, you can turn on your drawing guide here, and if you want to change the size, you can. So we can go to Edit Drawing Guide and do our grid size. We can make it larger if we want. This is 212 pixels, so I'll just leave it at that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start writing out the word Easter. And I want to do some flourishes to this as well. So I am going to add a flourish here. I'm going to add one here. And one like that. And I think I'm going to go in here with the eraser, and this is my brush set, but you can use anything you want. I'm going to use my medium round, and I'm going to erase part of the R, and I'm going to make a flourish on the R. Oops, actually, let me erase more of it. I'm going to go with a large. So I want this flourish to be real fancy. Okay, so now we've got the word Easter here, and I like where it's at, but I'm going to move it over just so it's centered. And I have the uniform and the snapping turned on. So there was, I don't know if you could see it, it's kind of hard with the colors that I chose, but there were two orange crosshairs that made sure that it was centered. So it's exactly in the middle. Okay, so I am going to write the word happy, and I'm not going to do this into calligraphy. I am going to write it just regular, and I'm going to do it right here, I think. And what I like about this one has pressure sensitivity, but it's also very nice. It looks like it's a hand-drawn, you know, it gives it that hand-drawn look, which is very nice. I love that. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to add in some leaves, some laurel branches or viney type things. And so we are going to just start drawing some leaves on the ends of our branches here. We're gonna use the letters as our first branches that we're doing, and then we're going to add more branches, but this is our start for now. And you can have as many leaves or as few leaves as you want. I think I'm going to make it have a little bit more. But I don't want to go all the way because I don't want to take away from the letters. Okay, so it's important that we keep our letters still legible. We want it to still say Easter, and we don't want to overpower. Another thing we're going to do after we draw the leaves on these branches of the letters, we are going to thicken our strokes, and we're going to do faux calligraphy. So if you have taken any of my other if you've done any of my other tutorials, you'll know how to do faux calligraphy already. So you are ahead of the game, but if not, it's very easy, and I will show you how to do it. This one's a little bit tricky because it kind of overlaps, but you get the idea. We don't want it to be too busy. Like I said, we want to be able to read our word. It's very important when you're doing lettering that you're still, like, you have the design, but you're still legible. So you still want it to be legible at least some, or you know, most of the way. I know you can have more creative freedom with lettering because you can do drawings and stuff, but you also want it to be legible still. And I love that this brush also, it's not even with like the strokes. Like I said, it gives it more of that hand-drawn look. And if you're doing this on paper, then this is definitely something that you can follow along with. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I like how these branches look right here. So now what I'm going to do is anywhere where we would have had a downstroke, so except for the branches, leave these extra flourishes alone that we did. Leave those as is, because otherwise it's going to look really weird. So just the main lettering. So anywhere where there was a downstroke, so you can kind of follow along, and like if you need to, just kind of retrace over. Don't touch, otherwise you're going to draw over it. But just kind of hover above. And then wherever there's a downstroke, you can start thickening it up a bit. And you can color it in, and you don't have to color it in all the way because then you get that nice little texture to it. And it makes it real nice. It gives it just a little extra character to it, you know, when you give it that hand-drawn feel, kind of sketchy looking. So we're just going to do this to each letter. My E's tend to look like loops instead of E's, but if I take my time, I can make them look like an E, but that's just the way my handwriting is when I do it. Okay, there we go. So we have our word Easter. Now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make a border along the edge almost, and it's going to kind of curve around our letters. So what I'm actually going to do is I am going to duplicate this, and I'm going to turn off this bottom one. This is our original, so you can keep the original, and we'll name it original just so that we know. And we're going to go back to layer 1 here. So that way, if you want it at this size, you can always have it, because when you shrink things down in Procreate, it tends to lose some of its quality. All right, so we're going to go to the arrow tool, and I'm going to pinch it. I'm actually going to I want it to stay. So there we go. Okay. Just a little bit more. All right, there we go. So I just pinched it down so that now it is smaller, and I'm gonna go back, and the orange crosshairs, I know it's hard to see on the screen, but I had the orange crosshairs, so now it's exactly in the center. Okay, so now we can go on to a new layer and we can do our branches, and you can label all these later if you want to. All right, so let's go ahead and start drawing some. We're going to start with lines, and then from there we'll go and we will add the leaves to them. So just kind of follow the curves of your letters, and you just kind of want to do some pretty little loops here and there, and just draw some branches coming off. Make it look like your lettering is part of this pretty little flower display. We are adding flowers, I promise. I mean, you can't have just green for Easter. You have to have some more colors. I mean, it is spring after all, so. And again, you want to make sure that you're not overpowering your lettering. But we will get to that. I promise we'll get to that too, because there's going to be some areas where it's going to look kind of, That is my professional term for it. I will just leave it at that. But don't worry, we will make sure that your lettering is still legible and everything is still good to go. So I'm not going to add a whole lot because we do have some flourishing already going on with the lettering itself. So we don't want to take away too much. But you can feel free to add as much as you want or as little as you want. So, and you don't even have to do this step at all if you really don't want to. If you're happy with how yours is, you can leave it. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start adding some leaves. Just like we did before. And it's okay if they touch, because leaves are sometimes messy, and they're, you know, it's like a garden. Your garden isn't perfect, although some people really take their time on it. I think it's more pretty when it's kind of wild and doing its own thing. And you don't have to go all the way down to the ends of these. You can leave it so that there's some space at the end, like they were just plucked out of the ground or off their branch. If you're struggling trying to get them somewhat even, don't worry about that, because they're not perfect in nature either. But starting with the one on the end is kind of a cheat way you can do it. That one kind of helps set the pace for the rest of them, I guess you could say. Actually, I think I'm going to leave. Let me see. No, I'm going to put those back. 3-finger tap to redo. 2-finger tap to undo. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, there is a new feature in Procreate since the last time I did this with you, but you can have your colors as cards, which I love that. That is so cool. It's just like having the Pantone swatches, but this is easier for me to look at because then I can kind of compare it to all my other color palettes and just see which color palette I want to go with, or if I want to make a new one and grab stuff from other ones. But just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was a pretty cool little thing that they added to Procreate. I love when they add new stuff, although it's new learning, but you know, they always have some good updates. Okay, so we're almost done. You can turn your canvas as needed. I turn my canvas a lot while I'm drawing, and it's funny because I don't turn my paper. When I draw with regular paper and pencil, I really don't turn it as much as I do in Procreate. I don't know why that is, but I also do not work at an angle when I do paper like I do with Procreate. I can't do it here because I'm videoing it, but I have my set up kind of like an easel. So, all right, so we have our leaves drawn in, and I like how this looks. I think it looks really pretty. I actually think I may add one little, let me see how it's gonna look, to add a little swoosh of a leaf. It may be too much. Sometimes you just have to play with it. Nope, it's too much. Okay. It's always good to do trial and error. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our layers, and it's a little dark and it overpowers just a little bit. So I'm gonna turn it down only a little bit though. So we're gonna turn the opacity down. See, if we do too much, you're gonna lose it, and you don't wanna do that. So I think having it about 75, it's pretty good. And I'm actually gonna go back over into our lettering, and I'm going to just trace over happy, so it's a little bit thicker and darker, so it stands out amongst the rest of the leaves a little bit more. And I'm gonna go into our layers, and back with layer 3, gonna make a new layer above it, layer 4. And it is important that you are above this layer now for this part. So now we're gonna grab our pink color, and we're gonna start drawing some flowers. And we're gonna just draw them, and it's easier if you can see your whole thing. And I'm actually gonna get rid of the grid because the grid is kind of distracting to me. So this is what our piece looks like right now. So I like to see the whole piece when I'm working on this. That way we can kind of know what areas need the color more than others. So I'm just gonna add it in random spots. I'm gonna just start over here. And I'm just gonna do like a, this simple little 5-petal flower. And I'm gonna do that in little random spots here and there. And I like how this one's not colored in all the way. It gives it a little bit extra. And I'm gonna put some in this white space here as well. Or if you wanna get technical, light green space. I actually really like how it looks coming off of it a little bit, but I'm not gonna do it for all of them because I wanna give some different feels for it, you know what I mean? So it looks a little different. And some of these flowers, the petals look like they're squished together, like we just picked them from the ground. This is my favorite time of year. I love all the colors. I love all the spring colors that happen naturally, all the little wildflowers. I just think they're beautiful. And I always get sad when my husband has to mow the yard and gets rid of all those little flowers that pop up. I'm not good at gardening, so we don't have a really pretty flower garden, unfortunately. Let's see, I'm gonna add one here, I think, too. All right, so we definitely need some down here because we need some color. So I'm going to add just kind of off to the side a little bit. I'm going to add a pink one here. And I'll add one here. So we need to tie in some of these colors together. All right, and you can zoom out and see, all right, is there any other areas that we need some more color, or do you like how it looks? I like how this looks. I'm happy with it. So all I'm going to do now is get the last color, yellow, and you can do it on the same layer, you can do it on a different layer, it doesn't matter. I'm doing mine on the same layer. And all we're going to do is just do a little dot in the middle of each flower. And you really don't have to draw too much with this because it's pretty, the brush size is pretty thick, so it makes it a pretty good size little dot. So there we have it. Now it is a little off center because of our branches, so I'm going to just grab these 3 layers by swiping to the left on each one, go to the arrow tool, zoom out so we can see, and make sure you have the crosshairs, and there we go, we are centered. So there you have it, you have your Happy Easter piece, and I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and that you can use this for Easter cards or whatever you want to do. You don't have to do Happy Easter, you can do whatever you'd like, but I hope this was helpful to you, and I enjoy seeing what you do, so please post it on Instagram, tag me at blackrose613, and use the tag Wonder Wednesday Projects. And I'd love to see what you do. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much for joining me.